Long ago, a wanderer brought an enthralling gift to the people of Embervale. The elixir. It was a cure, a blessing, a weapon. Once concealed by the ancients, its might had been set free. With it came power, mistrust, and a longing for more. Humanity dug the elixir wells, ripping apart the land and each other to quench their thirst. Elixir and blood, a drop for a drop. But from the depths of the wells, an unforeseen curse crept into Embervale. The Shroud, a ruinous fog which sought only to spread and devour. Facing their downfall, ancients and humans united to forge the Flameborn. Now, your time has come. Awake.
I'm letting you know for the next time it happens. Meteors. Whoa! Welcome to the A Week in the Life review of Enshrouded. It has been quite the journey through the world of Embervale, and what a world King Games made for that journey. For these kinds of reviews, I play a game for 168 hours a week and give as complete review as possible depending on size of the game and requirements for later game content. For now, Enshrouded is in early access only on Steam, but King Games is looking to bring Enshrouded to both the Xbox and PlayStation platforms in the future. So, what did I think of my week in the life of a Flameborn fighting back the evil Shroud and all of its minions? Find out in this review. Now, before we get into the good stuff, just a few technical things to cover. My rig is by no means the most powerful, but it's also no slouch either. I have a 3070 Ti paired with an i9 9900K, the game running off an NVMe M.2 SSD, and a 120Hz monitor getting 120 frames. Once VSync was turned off, 60 with it on. I encountered one crash in my time, and I personally saw MsMakabre have one crash on the game, so I can account for two in total. The most frequent issue I had was a few quick stutters in frames or a few seconds of a delay in textures loading right after a loading screen when fast traveling somewhere. There was also the occasional split-second hitch when traveling across a region or biome lines. Nothing major, but worth mentioning nonetheless. A caveat to include is that for the majority of my play, which you can watch in the Enshrouded playlist on the channel, I was running OBS or Outplayed or both in the background. So some of these hitches, stutters and delays, and texture loading are going to be related to that, but not all. The game was very smooth, ran very well, loaded very quickly. I didn't really have a whole lot of issues with Enshrouded. Maybe, there's a couple of times I loaded into my world and there was like an animal stuck in the walls of one of my buildings. Just reloaded my world. Nothing major. Ran very well. Enshrouded is a large game with a very explorable open world. In fact, exploration or exploration through questing is the main loop of the game, and there are so many things to discover. Enshrouded has, as of the writing/recording of this vid, 6 regions or biomes to explore: cities, towns, caves, forts, fortresses, a castle city, giant tree villages, a large number of resources to gather, wild creatures, 3 main factions to fight and one of them to befriend through skills, a huge skill web/tree akin to a particular action RPG game, mage stuff, ranger stuff, warrior stuff, sneaky stuff, lots of armor, lots of weapons, some of them unique, dodging, blocking, parrying, sprinting, gliding, double jumping, teleporting, the ability to scale mountains very creatively, crafting, cooking, growing, decorating, the ability to modify the terrain, and one of the most intricate base/house building systems for a game in this vein. Woo! Enshrouded has a ton. Oh, and a big old boatload of quests. Enshrouded is a game made for you to be able to live in for a while, at least a week of your life. And if you like games that are made for you to live in for a while and that you can put down easily and come back to, then Enshrouded is definitely one to look into and maybe even check out for yourself. Bring your friends too, because you can jump from a world you create, and you can create multiple, straight into one of your friends' worlds to play with them with the character you were just playing on in your world. You can also host your world for your friends or others to bring their characters into and play. Hold up a second, Morecat. Did you just say that I could jump into a world of my friends and play with them, and I don't have to create a new character for their world? Yes, I did. I don't know how King Games did it, but they pulled it off, spectacularly too. This can come in really handy if you want to up the difficulty of your world. Enshrouded currently has 5 difficulty modes, one of them being a custom mode, and depending on your character level or personal skill level, some of the higher ones could be much easier or almost require some backup. I played on the default difficulty for almost the entirety of my playtime. One stream I specifically changed the difficulty modes and played for about 30 minutes to an hour on each, say for custom. But just because you can up the difficulty doesn't mean the default is free of challenge. Enshrouded has many difficult enemies and locations that will force you to use multiple combat styles or multiple weapons of the same style to overcome them. Combining different combat styles and cross-classing in the skill web can often provide plenty of options for you to overcome these challenges in your own creative way. Sometimes these challenges are a swarm of enemies meant to overwhelm you, or there are a few tough enemies that will work together to try to defeat you, or it can even be just one big boss. The variety in building your character and combat gives hack and slash action combat players plenty of action. There are breaks in the combat though, for base building and crafting. It's always a good idea to prep up before an adventure and make sure you have plenty of heals and buffs to take with you. These breaks for the building, decorating, crafting, and base management give Enshrouded a distinctly cozy game vibe at times, so there's also a niche for those kinds of players too. And that is about the best, most concise way I can sum up Enshrouded from my week in the life of a Flameborn in Embervale without spoilers. There is a variety of things for a variety of players and a variety of places for them to do it all. Embervale is a wonderful open world with a wonderful ambiance to lose yourself in and live your best Flameborn life, or multiple, for as long as you want to stay. Mentioning spoilers again, as this next section will be more of a free-form discussion of specific things and mechanics, and I cannot guarantee no spoilers. Alright guys, just to reiterate the spoiler warning, there's going to be spoilers in this section. Now just to kind of spoil this, there's not actually a whole lot to spoil about the game outside of, some boss fights, certain things you might discover on your own, more in-depth stuff about the mechanics and the skill trees, things we liked and didn't like. I mean, that might spoil some stuff for you personally. but there's no overall, like, overarching storyline between all the quests, so there's nothing to spoil there in terms of story. There's no character development. The story of this game is very much your journey to, well, hopefully eventually we'll clear out all the Shroud.
Yeah.
Now, something to talk about here real quick, depending on when this review goes up, we do have the release date for Update 4 coming, and that is, MsMakabre?
Oh god, I can't remember. Was it November 6th or 5th? 5th or 6th?
You told me, so I don't remember. But we do have that coming up here in early November nonetheless, and when that happens, that is going to be opening up a substantial portion of the remaining area of the map that we don't have access to just yet, if not the whole rest of the map. There's going to be new enemy types introduced. They've already updated Steam with achievements, and, well, a whole lot of other stuff. I don't want to spoil everything for that, so make sure to go check out, the blog and whatnot.
It will be on November 5th.
November the 5th. So, depending on when this review comes out, some stuff might be a little bit different, or some parts of this review, like talking about the update coming up, might be a little out of date. Sorry it's taken so long to get this out. But, starting off the game, you do have, when you boot up, you do have a little section, kind of like Hogwarts Legacy, where you have to, it's not shaders, I forget what they call it, but a little boot up process, and then once you're into the game, it kind of plops you down early on and then just sets you free. It doesn't have like an extended tutorial sections. All the little tutorials are like little pop-ups as you go around the starting area, which I think is really cool. It's like, hey, now that you've encountered this, here's a little tutorial for this. I think it's very well laid out, and the tutorials are very brief and I'd have to say concise. None of them really left me with any questions.
No.
And once you're set free, it's up to you and to explore the world, where you can go. What you have the craftiness and the ability to do is your own. As I said, the story is kind of your journey through things. And a big part of that journey is exploring the world and traversal, and I think they give you a good variety of options to be able to use in traversing the world. You got double jumps, you got teleports, you got fast travel, grapple hooks, gliders. You can do a lot with elevation and gliders.
The only thing I would suggest is it'd be cool to have mounts at some point in time.
Add in some mounts?
Maybe.
I could see that.
If you're just wanting to travel around on the ground. I know you can glide a pretty good ways, but that's like if you're trying to cover a vast distance.
I could see that. I could see some kind of mount to help you get around on the ground quicker, because you don't always have the ability to grapple up someplace or to get elevation. And even if you have the skill, have you checked out that skill? There's a skill that's in between the green and blue trees, but you can use mana to give yourself like a little height boost as you're gliding, so it kind of just like gust of wind pushes you up kind of thing.
No, I don't use that particular. I don't use mana that much, so.
Well, at least on the character you're running. I don't either. Like, pretty much the only mana I use is when I'm using those little summoning skull vessels.
Yeah.
And when I'm using that little burst of momentum to give yourself some height. I do have a mage character, but I haven't played anywhere near as extensively on him as I have my bow ranger, adventurer, dashing rogue kind of guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do want to say I do very much enjoy the touch of you being able to tunnel and dig with your picks and using bombs to basically create your own path of traversal.
Yeah, it's helpful when you're trying to get places.
It can be really annoying and time consuming, but I mean, hey, if you can scale up a mountain without having to spend just as much or more time trying to run around it, fight through things, find a path, and get up.
I remember that one really long tunnel that we did that one time.
Yeah, that was going up to the Nomad Highlands. We were trying to get you up there so we could get you over to the Spire.
Yeah.
That's the exact same thing I did the first time. I know I've got multiple pieces of footage of it. But yeah, that's a really great attention to detail, a really great traversal thing. And not only can you use that digging to traverse, but have you done anything subterranean on building?
Not really.
I think we have this one area in the not in the Nomad Highlands, in the Revelwood, that's near several resources, and it was really beneficial to have it early on. Now that we've gotten higher level and we've got grow tables and all sorts of other stuff, it's coming a little less handy, but it's still extremely useful, especially if you need a lot of a certain kind of resource real quick. And that's the place, if you guys ever watched the stream and saw me go to my resource cave, that's where that was. And didn't you make a little, like, I know you didn't make like a hobbit house, but didn't you make like a little cave base home thing?
Yeah, I might have hollowed it out a little bit more than what it was, but I kind of used an existing little cave and built a wall and door and window, so I have like an entrance into it and put some things in there. I planted a bunch of like the seed bushes like around the entrance too, and I have like kind of a fence through there. It's a little bit overgrown looking, but I kind of like it that way. And then there was another not tunnel, but a little cave, a little farther to the left, and then I put a little bathhouse area in there with a bathtub. And
did you connect the two places?
No.
Okay.
I wonder if I could do that. Just make a tunnel all the way from one to the other. I need to try that.
Make it like a little multiple exterior entrances, but like a little house complex in the ground. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. I hadn't thought to do that yet.
Because I also haven't done any digging to make like a cellar or a basement or anything for the Highwind Den. And the wizard's home is literally just a big square shack that contains everybody. Me personally, I've done some stuff with the building. I need to do more. I'm kind of used to like Ark, right? Like I'm used to Ark, Minecraft, Subnautica, 7 Days to Die, where you're either putting down like a square block one bit at a time, or an Ark, you like your wall is your wall. There is no reshaping the wall. There is no trimming it down. You can't make the window space bigger like you can in Enshrouded. It's literally, boom, there's your wall, and it's just like a squarish rectangle kind of thing. That's what I'm used to. I'm not real used to having the ability to, let me take this one piece off of here, and this one piece out of here, and this one row, and then I can put this window in. So I think the building is absolutely amazing. Best building system I've ever encountered, but I'm rambling. Is there anything about the building you didn't personally care for?
I'm still adjusting to it, I've built that one little first base, and then, of course, I just moved into the Blue Goblet Tavern, but
yeah.
I honestly need to take some time and sit down and play with it some more, because there's a lot of the new building blocks that I haven't even gotten to toy with yet. It's just been the basic stone and wood, but I would like some blueprints.
Blueprints, like Nightingale?
Yeah, like to kind of give you a little bit of something to work from. I mean, you could always, build onto it yourself too, but I'd like...
You mean like a blueprint or like a pre-built structure?
Well, yeah.
Oh, just like a little template or something.
Yeah,
that
like a
they've
template
made.
is probably the best word to use. Like,
okay, like kind of like in Ranch Sim, where you can make your own place, or they had like, house 1, house 2, house 3.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about Ranch Sim is you can't build onto it yourself.
No, you can't modify it. But
I'd like to have the ability to use templates in conjunction with your own stuff too.
Well, yeah, what I was getting at though is it's like Ranch Sim, King could put in some like basic structures, like, hey, here's a single player house, or here's like a small crafting house or something like that. Yeah. And then you just have like something that you can place down, kind of like in Ark Ascended, which I do not like the sound of whatsoever, just pre-built structures you can place down, but you could put down that template and then modify it, whereas in Ark you can't modify it.
How highly customizable the building is in this game. Sometimes you just need a little bit of inspo to start from, and then maybe, you're like, oh, there's this little starter house, let me build some rooms off of it, just something to start from.
See, I could definitely get behind that because I've had difficulty figuring out like how I would build like a wizard tower for my wizard character. I could definitely get down with that idea. Because then I could also make like a copy of like the tavern house I made and then place it down and be like, okay, let me try modifying it. Or let me place it somewhere else. That'd probably make it pretty easy to move your base. Depending on how it worked. But in setting out from your base, well, since we're at the base, let's talk about the craftspeople. I liked having to go around and get the different crafting people. You had a quest for each of those. All the quests in the game are very simple, like variations on go fetch quest. All of them you have to basically come back to the base. But I liked having to go and rescue other people to like unlock certain crafting recipes and whatnot. That was really cool.
Crowley was a little bit more of a challenge because you had to go through
the hollow halls.
The hollow halls to get him.
True, and then you had to go through a longer hollow halls to get his ectoplasm thingamajigger.
Yes.
Big cauldron boiler looking thing.
That was a fun experience for me. And the sad part is I was doing it by myself, so I'm going to tell on myself here, y'all. I put it in relaxed mode so I could try to get through there. And I still died. I think I might have died twice whenever I was fighting that fella to get through it.
Oh, the final boss dude?
Yeah, even in
big scary guy?
Yeah, even in relaxed mode. He handed my behind to me like a good 2 times. But then I managed to like have him fall to his death by accident. So it ended up working out.
He was a good boss fight. I'm going to have to maybe try fighting him again, see if I can't get him to fall off, because that would be much easier than dying a few times like I did, and then just like jump gliding away and having summon skull dudes burn him down slowly. But I died a few times there, so I wouldn't feel bad about dying on him.
Yeah, we were kind of in close quarters, and it's like I went around that opening, around the side of the thing, and he just fell down and hit that green goop.
The fell sickle scythe. If I never have to fight another fell sickle scythe in the game ever again, I will not be unhappy.
So which one was that?
I don't think you fought it yet. It's this sort of like flying reaper thing, and it has multiple attacks. The one I hate the most is he throws these blades out at you, right? And they're gonna curve and follow you. So you think, oh, you just like dodge roll or get behind something, right? You're good. No, they'll fly through solid objects. Sometimes some solid objects, not every solid object. And let's say you dodge around it. It'll continue to curve and track you even after he's thrown like 2 or 3 more sets. So you can keep dodging, but until they like hit something and register that they hit something solid, they're going to continue to track you. You fought the fellow monstrosity, and you didn't particularly care for him. That's the big like conglomeration of like multiple whatevers. It's got the big vertical mouth. It shoots the stuff out. It's got the little bee swarm thing it sends after you.
Oh, yeah.
The little swarm of dudes attacking you, I think threw you off at first. You tried to treat it like it was a swarm of bees, and I was like, no, just hit it with your weapon.
Yeah.
And then it died in like, what, 1, maybe 2 hits?
I hate the spawners too, like, you know, if you don't see one immediately and there's people that just still keep coming at you, you have to take the spawner out. And sometimes you're covered up, especially if you're by yourself.
Yeah. Spawners are not fun for sure. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there are some enemies, kind of like that one skeleton dude with the long scythe. I could not figure out their parry window. And there were even times where I figured I was blocking soon enough to block their attack. I don't know if it was the animation or hitbox, but there were other times that I just could not figure out when to block or when to parry an enemy. Enshrouded is definitely not a game that I would say is easy if you're used to this genre. It'll be easier for you, but I would not necessarily say it's an easy game because they definitely give a lot of challenge with just the number of enemies and the kind of enemies you fight.
Yeah.
The transmog was one of my more favorite things about Enshrouded. I really loved not having to do anything for transmog other than go into like a cosmetics menu and I'm just going to equip this piece of gear.
Yeah.
And boom, there we go, transmog. I don't have to use resources. I don't have to spend money. I don't know, that was really great.
Well, didn't you mention that hiding hiding like a helmet or something on one character also happens on the other character.
Yeah, Keen, if we can somehow separate the hiding of pieces of armor and make it per character and not across the entire account for all characters on the account, that would be great. That's a request moving forward. I know it's small and nitpicky, but it would just be nice. They give you a variety of weapons. Speaking of weapons, real quick, like in loot, they give you a variety of weapons. You got two-handed, one-handed mage staffs, range mage staffs. I love how the wands are kind of like a magic melee weapon more than they are like an actual range type thing.
Yeah.
They are ranged, but it's meant to be the melee weapon because you can bring up a shield to block when you're using it.
Yeah. I feel like I need to play around with some other types of characters and builds. I mean, I do just like meleeing the crap out of people, but and I like my bow and arrow.
I'd like daggers to get a little bit of a buff in some way. I'm not sure the best way to do it, but whenever I'm using daggers, even daggers that are up on like the level of my, say, like a one-handed melee weapon with a shield, they just seem so deficient in parrying, blocking, and the damage they deal. Every time I'm running around with daggers, I eventually find myself quickly swapping to like a one-handed melee weapon with a shield. It's just so much more effective.
I always just default to, my one-handed melee weapons and a shield.
Do you think there needs to be more variety, or do you think the variety is good enough in terms of like weapons and armor and combat styles?
Oh, I think there's plenty.
Yeah, they got a lot of different armor, and the armor buffs different stats and whatnot, so it leans into different play styles, but most of it comes from the skill tree. And that does have plenty of variety. I am still salty that they removed my bridges at the upper levels, so I have to spend more skill points, they cross class, and get the easy button of the Vuka and wild animals won't attack me. In all honesty, it's probably a very fair thing considering how much I crutched on that later game. But yeah, they did take that out. I'm still a little salty about that. And the respecking, where it only costs 10 runes, I think that is honestly... You don't really realize it, but the more I think about it, it's one of the more brilliantly crafted parts. Because if I wanted to, say, experiment with a mage character, I don't have to create a whole nother character to be able to get gear and spec him. It makes it so easy. And speaking of easy, how easy is it to be able to flop between people's worlds?
Very easy, and I am very appreciative of that, because I wish Pal World allowed that, because I need help, and then you're like severely under level in my world and vice versa, and
yeah,
we can't just come together as high level people and just...
No, we can't.
And it sucks.
Exactly.
Because what's even the point unless you both start from scratch in a save together?
And see, that's the way it was playing Ark with friends. If people had different servers, I had to have different characters. The flexibility in crafting your character and being able to respec them and play with other people, that aspect is what makes Enshrouded my personal game of the year if it hits 1.0 in time. You got any concerns because Enshrouded is in early access?
Not really.
It doesn't bother you that when you got it, it wasn't complete? And it might not get completed?
I don't know. I'm not too knowledgeable about those type of things. I know there are some games that come into early access and stay that way for eons.
I'm okay with Enshrouded because King Games, at least to me and what I know of the early access program, seems to have used it correctly. They knew exactly what Enshrouded was going to be. They knew what they were going to have where. They weren't trying to double back, let's get a core concept of the game right while we're in early access. No, everything was spot on from the get-go. They've just released it in portions because they needed some money to finish the doing.
Well, I mean, I've got 145 and a half hours in it, and I'm still not even to the end of what there is in the game as it stands, so it's definitely been worth the purchase for me, so.
I want to say I have like 180 plus hours. I definitely think it's a worthwhile purchase. It's got great playtime value. And this is, as you'll find in the section coming up, this is one of the few games I'm okay with how it's handled early access. And It's one of the few games that I'm going to recommend while it's in early access. So, Moorcat, cut to the chase. You rambled, and even MsMakabre got a few words in. Do you recommend it? Well, this is tricky for me. I don't like the early access trend, because most times you're purchasing an incomplete product with promises that may or may not be empty, that it's going to be finished. I recommended Enshrouded in the A Day in the Life review, but I also misspoke and said it was a complete product at launch, but it isn't yet complete. What I should have said is that Enshrouded feels like a complete product at launch. Yes, even though it isn't complete yet. Keen Games seems like a studio that has used Steam's early access correctly, and that Enshrouded will hit 1.0 as a high-quality, complete product. It already has a high quality, even though it isn't complete. Still, when I found my error, and that Enshrouded was not yet done, I wanted to immediately not recommend it. Not because of my error, but because it isn't yet complete. Now, if Enshrouded not being finished yet is a deal breaker for you, then I strongly and definitely recommend Enshrouded once it is out of early access. It is a high quality game worthy of your time, at least a week's worth, and as I've said several times, not complete yet. If Enshrouded not being complete as yet is not a deal breaker for you, then I strongly and definitely recommend you go ahead and check into Enshrouded. In mid-June of this year, I paid $29.99 USD for Enshrouded, and to date have gotten 169 hours of play out of it. That is exceptional playtime value. Enshrouded immediately hooked me, and in doing most everything there is to do on one character and putting in a little bit of time on a second character, I have gotten more than a week's playtime, and I haven't done absolutely everything there is to do on one character. I still haven't built a grandiose base, or made an outhouse or a guest house for my current base. I haven't maxed out a mage, and I haven't made a straight melee beatstick character yet either. I haven't been through all the Hall of Halls, and all of that is before the new update, which is going to be huge. Again, advisory that Enshrouded is not yet complete. Lots to see and do, great studio behind it, exceptional playtime value, lower than average price, strong and definite recommend. Thank you all for some of your time and for watching my A Week in the Life review of Enshrouded. I hope you found my time as a Flameborn informative at the very least, and hopefully it will help you to determine if MsMakabre, I, and the rest of the Enshrouded community will see you around Embervale. Speaking of the Enshrouded community, Keen Games, make sure to go support them, has a wonderful Discord where you can keep up to date what is happening with the game, especially that upcoming update, and where you can interact with like-minded individuals of the Enshrouded community. Speaking of support, please drop a like on this review to help it out, share it around, and subscribe for more. We have Nightingale in November after Creeptober. But most importantly, have a wonderful rest of your day.